Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. See, I quite like the HSL stuff that I did in here, where, so I can like draw pixels and stuff, right? But then if I hover over here, I can pick different colors and stuff, and it's got hue, which is kind of the colors of the rainbow. So I press X, and now that's kind of locked in, and I can draw that hue. And then there's that saturation on the right, so I can make it more grey, like that. And then if I draw, you can see the difference. And then lightness, which is kind of more white or more black. So now it's a dark, desaturated green. So you can get just any color you want, basically, and draw with it. I probably won't go into like how I actually made that UI bit right now, but I'll show how I do HSL, which stands for hue, saturation, and lightness in dreams. So the first thing we start off with is I'll just use a sculpt, but this applies to paintings as well. You choose a full red, or you can kind of go up here and choose it from here, or a full green, or just a bold, clear color that is fully saturated so that we can affect it then afterwards. And it has to be red inside the sculpt. This is because you can then tweak it and change the hue cycle and get all of the colors of the rainbow. So we'll use that to affect the hue part of HSL. Whereas if we did it with just this kind of muted tan color, then we can still cycle the hue, but it won't be the strong, we won't be able to get a strong red from it. Just that's as strong as it'll ever get. It's just quite desaturated. If I were to spray paint different colors on it, it actually cycles all of those colors at the same time. So you could do like some complementary colors and then set this to a different hue cycle, and then it would still be complementary colors, but for different colors. The complementary color of red is green, so if I change that, that still looks kind of cool. That looks kind of cool, things like that. So the basic idea is we can affect the hue with this, and we can affect the saturation by just affecting that, and now it's more desaturated. Saturation is like how vibrant the color is, so the less saturated it is, the more grey everything becomes. And then when we want to affect the brightness, then if we put this tint color onto white and then up the tint amount, then we're making it more white. And if we put it onto black, then as we put it up and up, it'll become more black. So now let's make some logic to kind of convert just hue, saturation, and lightness into changing these things, and then you can kind of apply that to any object. Lightness can be called lightness or value or brightness, but it kind of mean roughly the same thing. So for hue, we could just wire that straight into hue cycle, and now we can go up to that, but this is actually not a percentage, it's a degrees there, because it kind of goes around in a circle. As you saw earlier, as I change this, it's like moving around, I guess in that direction. And if I change it some more, it's like moving even more around that direction, and it'll be light blue, and then it'll be dark blue, and then it'll be purple, and it'll come back to red when I go full. So it is like a circle, that's why these are in degrees. So if we put this to full, and then linked it up, then it's got this X, which means it's modulating this value. So it's got 360 degrees multiplied by whatever's coming in. So now I'm getting the full range of percentages of 360 degrees. It's important to note that the settings you see aren't actually the internal values it's using. So it's not really got like 100%, and it's not really got 84 degrees. It's got whatever value it needs to tell the computer to render this in a particular way. And then it shows the user, it shows us, a more usable, understandable value. If I get a number displayer and wire that in, you can see what values this actually uses internally. So if I go like that, and change it like that, you can see that actually 1 is kind of around here at 56 degrees, and if we go up to 360, it's 6.2. This is because it uses radians. There are 6.2 radians in a circle, and that's why it uses 6.2 kind of in the code under the hood. And so that's what you get out of here. So we can understand 360 degrees, but 6.243 isn't so obvious what that means. So if we wanted to set that to 6.2, then it would go up to 360. So I tend to just set it to 6.2 because it doesn't really matter too much. And now if I wire that in and use the overwrite plug icon thing, so if this was 0 and then you wire that in, it would go to the plug as well. This means you're setting that internal value with this wire. So now if I go up to 6.2, we get close to that 360 value, and we can get that full range. So that's hue. Next is saturation. This is very easy because you just wire it in and it kind of takes this 0 to 1 and turns it into the percentage. So now you've got the full range of saturation. So you can have a desaturated green or a fully saturated blue, things like that. And the last part is lightness. So with lightness, remember, we want to set this to black or white and then tint it to different amounts. So we have to do some processing on this to kind of get both of those things to affect this. So let's have a chip. I'll add a node going in and 2 nodes going out. So these nodes will go into the tint color and the tint amount, and going into this will be the lightness value. Let's move in front like that. First off, if we just remove the tint amount and put it to 200%, as you go from 0 to 1, any less saturated colors will become more saturated or something like that. See, it's become kind of more saturated red, sort of. But then you go beyond that, and now it's actually becoming, the black color is taking over. So we want to kind of affect that. So if we put that to 200%, we want to set it to white or black. And you can do that pretty easily with just a switch. So if we get a switch, this is actually sending out a value, not just on or off, but an on or off signal is actually, if we wire that into here, you can see it's actually sending a 1 or a 0. And you can change this by affecting these. And now it's sending -2.6 and 4.1. So if we reset that with triangle, and this color, if we send it a 1, it's going to use that value for all of the color channels. With computers, it tends to think about things in terms of how much red, how much green, how much blue. And if it's 100% of all those things, then it becomes white. And if it's 0% of all those things, then it becomes black. So you can just send in a on or off signal to make it white or black for that part. Cool. So when do we want to do that though? Well, if it's on 50% lightness, that will be just the normal color, not tinted black or white. And as we go down, we want to make it more black. As we go up, we want to make it more white. If this is more than 50%, we want to set this to white. So we can just do that with a calculator. If it's more than 50%, then set it to white. And if it's less than 50%, then it will just be black. And that's all sorted, because just like the switch, these on or off signals, or yes or no signals coming out of calculators, are actually full values. So when it's above 50%, it's 1, and when it's below 50%, it's 0. So that's setting it in exactly the same way, just coming from a different source. So that's whether it's white or black. Now we want to say, as we go from 50% towards 100, the tint amount should go higher and higher. But also when it goes from 50% down to 0, it also gets higher and higher. So for that, there's a a part of the signal manipulator. We tweak that and go to custom remapper mode. If you click on the remap curve, this affects how the output is kind of manipulated in various ways. One of them, if you click X on it, it says flip values below minimum. So if I just get a value slider and let it go for further, have a bigger range and then wire it in, and I'll play time. As I go up, you can see the input going up and the output going up. As I go down, it goes down. But if I go below the minimum input, which is 0, then it will start going up again on the output. Like that. So it kind of flips when it goes below 0. And that's what we want. We want it to go up to 100% as we go up like this, and also up to 100% when we go down like this. We set this to 50% and wire that in. So as we go down, it goes up to 100%. And as we go up, it also goes up to 100%. And that's what we want. Let's now just wire that straight into the tinter mount. Make sure that's the overwrite mode with L1 and X on that little tab. Oh, it's only going to 100%. We need it to go up to 200% so that it completely overwrites all the colour when you go full either way. So instead of going from 0 to 100, 0 to 1, it will go 0 to 2, which will represent 200%. Okay, so it's getting less tinted, and then back to black, like that. The value sliders only go to a single precision, so 0.1 increments. So just to test this and make sure it's nice and smooth, I'll get a calculator and wire A into this instead. And this has 0.01 increments, so I can get a much smoother change like that. And go up to white there, like that. So now that seems to be working fine. So that means we have full hue range and saturation and lightness for this cube. And the same thing applies to paint. Let's go and make it red. Okay, and we'll wire it in exactly the same way. Saturation. Okay, so they'll be exactly the same colour and it all works exactly the same and it's all fine. There you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.